Hi, this is Robert, and this is my second Warhammer Fantasy video battle report. So this time I'm using my Undead Legion against the Warriors of Chaos army, and this game was actually fought immediately after my previous game against the Lizardmen, so I haven't had time to change anything about my list. What that means is you can just look at my previous video if you want to know what my list actually consisted of, but it also means that I didn't have enough anti-armor for this game, and I knew going in it was going to be pretty bad on me. I honestly was kind of aiming just to get 500 points or so before my entire army was wiped out. I have played this army in the past, and my armies never do well against it. So my magic this time, I took the signature spell again. I also took the ward save spell, the +1 attack spell, and I didn't bother with killing blow. Instead I took a hex spell that causes the opponent to take dangerous terrain tests. My opponent has 3 chariots, it's a unit of dogs with skull crushers, I think they're called, behind them, another chariot with a hell cannon behind that, and then a large unit of trolls with a BSB on a mount. Then there's a level 1 on a disc, another chariot again. Then a unit of Chaos Warriors with a level 4 on Nurgle, a Demon Prince on a horse, and then another chariot, and then another chariot. So that's his deployment. Okay, on to my first turn. I forgot to take a picture of deployment, but not much happened. So my ghoul unit turns towards this building. My Vargheists, who were behind the building, leap forward in front of it. And my skeleton horse archers come forward a little bit as well. My other Vargheists come out from behind that forest. And you can just see the corner of my first Screaming Skull catapult, which is slightly behind that forest there. There's my Black Knights with my White King and my Vampire Lord. Then my Skeleton Archers with my High Leash Priest. My second Screaming Skull catapult. My Ghouls with the Tomb Prince. And lastly my Blood Knights with the Flying Vampire in with them again. In my turn, my shooting does absolutely nothing. One of my skull catapults just completely misses, the other misfires and can't shoot next turn either. In magic, I cast a dangerous terrain spell on his trolls. He then takes a charge on my vampire and blood knight unit. Now, I was 19 inches away and thought they had only movement 7. He managed to get in rolling an 11 because their movement 8. And he moved his other chariots forward. Skull Crushers generally just advanced. His trolls stayed put because of the spell I cast on them, and everything else just really came forward to focus on my army, which is mostly on the left flank. This one chariot stayed back in case I tried to get in behind his lines. He tries to cast some spells, including putting stuff on my Black Knight and my Vargheist units, but I managed to shut all of it down. And then into combat, I actually managed to stick around quite well and hold off his attack, but I can't seem to do any damage to him, which seems a little bit ridiculous to me. He manages to kill one Blood Knight, and I do maybe 1 damage to the chariot. I really did not expect to be doing such small amounts of damage with so much strength 5 in that unit. But they have a high armor save, high toughness, not much I can do. So I move my Vargheists up, hoping to charge one of his chariots in the next turn. And my other Vargheists move up to try and block his large Chaos Warrior unit from just charging into my lines this turn. My Horse Archers move to shoot his level 1 on disc. I was going to put them in front of the level 1 on disc, but you know, there's no point. They can still fly over and get into my Screaming Skull catapults. It doesn't really matter. My Black Knight unit comes forward so that it can face his Chaos Knight unit head on, and my other units just prepare for whatever is about to happen on all of my left flank. In my magic phase, I put a hex on the troll unit to slow it down, and in shooting I managed to shoot off that dog unit. In combat, my Blood Knights defeat his chariot, And I reform in such a way that if he tries to charge me, that chariot will actually be on the impassable terrain and won't quite be able to make it. So even if he moves it all the way to one side or all the way to another, it won't work. And if he has to reposition my unit, then anything else that tries to charge in will then be forced into impassable terrain and not be able to do anything. So, on his turn, he charges in with both chariot units, and he rolls high enough, and even though we had checked that he wouldn't be able to fit a unit, he said that my unit moves anyway, and it doesn't just turn, it can actually be forced backwards, which is not something I knew about. Yeah. He got another charge in with his Skull Crushers into my Ghoul unit with the Tomb Prince, and he managed to charge with a Chariot and his Chaos Knights into my Vargheists, which, to be honest, I was willing to lose just to keep him away from my Black Knights for another turn, till I can kind of sort some things out on my side. So actually I made a mistake describing my turn. What actually happened was I charged his Chariot and it ran away, so he's actually just reformed now to face me. And his third chariot moves up to see if it can, I don't know, get me in the flank or whatever. Doesn't really matter. And then he moves his level 1 Tzeentch on disc up to this unit here. I had thought it was a skirmisher, but since it isn't, I'll be the one having to move my unit if I charge, which means that I'll only be able to reform after combat if I beat it. I won't be able to overrun in any useful direction. And he casts Curse of the Leper on this, which means that it has increased toughness. My Skull Catapult on the right takes a couple of wounds from the Hell Cannon. And then in combat, his chariots wipe out my Blood Knight unit. Yeah, I actually did get a chance to attack with some of these, but it just went really badly. So yeah, and then in the Skull Crusher combat, this is all that's left. He manages to take out my Tomb Prince. He takes out, I don't know, however many models, and then I lose another 16, which is that block with the fountain, just from crumbling. Moving on to here, he obviously wipes out the Vargheists and reforms. And onto my turn 3. So I charge my Vampire Lord into his chariot, because at this point I just want some points. I charge my horsemen into the flank of his Chaos Knight unit. He has his level 4 on the corners there. I'm hoping I may be able to get a cheeky wound in, and if not, I can at least hold up the unit for a bit. And I really should have just charged my Black Knights into that level 1 on disc. Over here I charge my Vargheists into the chariot. And the last thing I do is I pop my High Leech Priest out and just put him behind the building where no one can get to him. So my Vargheists, between them, managed to do 1 wound to the chariot, and it does 2 wounds to my Vargheists. I thought I would take the chariot out, or at least win the combat and make it run. Oh man. At the end of combat over here, my Vampire Lord manages to overrun into his trolls, which I'm quite happy about, and he reforms and puts his Demon Prince in contact with my Horse Archers, which is actually great for me because it means I've survived this turn. Speaking of surviving this turn, he has reformed at the end of combat to face this unit, and he has some chariots over to the side as well. So in his turn, he charges the chariot into the Screaming Skull Catapult. He charges the Skull Crushers into the archers. They're gone. He manages to get the chariot on the right into my Vargheists and moves the other chariot up. He does not move his level 1 into contact with my Black Knights. I don't know what I expected, honestly. That was a pretty poor decision on my part to leave them there. I have now wasted 2 turns of combat with them, and he's allowing me to waste more. Those Black Knights were actually killed by the Hell Cannon. At the end of his turn, he manages to win that combat, killing the Vargheists. He manages to win the combat, killing the Horse Archers, but you know, I don't mind about that, and he reforms. Moving over here, he kills the Screaming Skull Catapult and doesn't actually take out my archers. So yeah, they survive into his... Oh yeah, but crumbling gets them. How silly of me. So going into combat with the trolls, what actually happened is he challenges me with his BSB guy, and I get a bunch of attacks off, and then he reveals to me that this guy has a 3-up ward save and he rerolls ones. And I'm just like, oh man, this army, like, what the hell? But this is actually probably the best luck I have had in many games. I get like 4 wounds and he rolls... No, actually, I get 3, maybe 4 wounds and he rolls 3 2s. And that is the BSB gone. I have taken no wounds. This is fantastic. I'm actually going to manage to get the 500 points I was hoping for. Maybe not much more than 500 points, but at least I'll do some damage. So moving on to my turn, I get my Black Knights into his Chaos Knight unit here. I don't remember what happened to his level 1 on disc. I may have magicked it in a previous turn. I really wish I could remember, but I'm fairly certain it's dead. Oh, right. I think he miscast and killed it. Sorry about that. It was just getting a little bit confusing at this point. I had been playing Warhammer at this point for about 7 hours. So you'll notice I'm not mentioning what my Screaming Skull catapults are killing much, and that's because any time I haven't mentioned them, they've missed, or they've rolled a 1-2 wound, or something like that. If I don't really mention my magic phase, just be aware that mostly I was trying for big spells, big dice, or even medium spells and big dice, and I just wasn't getting it. So I've combat over there. I don't do much. I lose a few guys, and he manages to put a wound on my Vampire Lord while I take out a couple of trolls. Onto his turn, he charges a chariot and the Skull Crushers into my second Screaming Skull catapult, and he just moves some more chariots up to prepare to wipe me out. Yeah. He casts Curse of the Leper on these guys, increasing their toughness, which means since I can't Killing Blow them, I'm really in a lot of trouble at this point. And then he manages to get Blades of Putrefaction off, which gives him poison. That wasn't going to go that well for me, but I actually managed to survive fairly well, I guess. And if you look over to where his troll unit is, you can see that there goes my Lord, because I didn't realize that the trolls had armor, like just ignore armor attacks. And since I didn't take any ward save, he's dead. And my High Leech Priest is hiding a bit more. At this point the game is really basically over, and I turn to my opponent and concede because I need to get home. All I have left is the High Leech Priest, the unit you see there, which pretty much would have gone given another turn, and then my small ghoul unit, which we both forgot about, which was hanging out in that building in the bottom right corner for basically the entire game. So yeah, this was pretty much a massacre for my army. I took out a level 1, I took out a BSB, and did I a dog unit? I mean, like, did I kill anything else? I don't know. Warriors of Chaos are a real problem for me generally, and with this army it seems particularly so. It was still a fun enough game. The guy was a nice guy. You know, had a good chat to him about the ETC and all those kinds of things in Warhammer. A lot of learning points for me. What would I have done differently? Well, I would have taken things that can deal with armor. I probably would have taken some spirit hosts. I guess my Vargheists were useful in a way. They slowed down a couple of chariots at one point, but the reality is they can't cope with this army. In fact, I don't think Vargheists can cope with my style of play, because I'm using them aggressively and I just shouldn't. I think a Casket of Souls would have been amazing in this game as well. I took my Lord out of my Black Knight unit yet again, and I shouldn't have. I don't know what else I could have done. If anyone has some suggestions of how I could have played this better, I would really like to know. Please. So, that's this battle report. If you liked it or you want to see more, subscribe, share it with your friends, all that kind of stuff. You can follow me on Twitter, and that's at Mantic Moments, all one word. It's just like the YouTube channel. And let me know what you thought in the comments. Thank you.